Much happened in politics after I went on vacation early this month and in fact went missing from this space. After my return this week, I've been thinking about what all happened. One was of course Congress Party Chintan Shivir in Udaipur. It's old news now, so I won't be actually focusing on that, and also because nothing changes in Congress. So we saw what happened in Udaipur, what all was discussed, and then on Monday you saw Sonia Gandhi forming 3 committees. 2 of them were very important. One is Political Affairs Committee and another is Task Force 2024. Which should be laying the groundwork for the party's preparations for the next Lok Sabha election. But look at the members. There are total 18 members. 16 members in these 2 committees. The third one I'm not talking about because it's a planned yatra. So these 2 committees are really focusing on. Just briefly, just to show how the Congress will never change. So in the Political Affairs Committee, Sonia is of course, she's heading the committee. Then you have Rahul Gandhi and many of Rahul Gandhi's lieutenants, apart from a few veteran leaders. Look at the Task Force 24, where you have Priyanka Gandhi and again Rahul's lieutenants and some other veteran leaders. So if you look at all these 16 members, you have just one Lok Sabha member, that is Rahul Gandhi. The others are current and former Rajya Sabha members or former MLAs who have been losing even assembly elections, and they will be laying the groundwork for the Congress Party's preparations for 24. So now nothing is going to change. The more things change, the more it remains the same in the Congress. So I want to be talking about that. What I have been thinking about is, how Biplab, the Tripura Chief Minister, had to resign on the 14th of May. He was instructed by the BJP High Command to resign. How did it happen? And he's the 6th CM, I would say. If you start counting Anandiben Patel and Vijay Rupani in Gujarat, then you have Tripura Singh Rawat, Tirath Singh Rawat in Uttarakhand, then you have B.S. Yediyurappa in Karnataka, and he becomes the 6th CM, BJP CM, to be sacked. I'm of course not counting Sarbanan Sonowal, the BJP, because he completed his term. Just that after the BJP came back to power, it was Himanta Biswa Sarma who was made the chief minister. What happened to Biplab? I'll come to why I'm talking about this sacking all these chief ministers. I'll come to that later. First, let me talk about what happened to Biplab Dev. He was a rising star in the BJP who had, felled the mighty comrades in Tripura. I have not spoken to him, and so I wonder what he may be thinking now. He may still be scratching his head with dismay, I think, that what went wrong. I won't be surprised if he has been listening to American singer John Anderson. Many of you may remember his song, would you catch a fallen star before he crashes to the ground? Don't you know how people are? Nobody loves you when you are down. So if Biplab is listening to this song now, I won't be surprised. And Biplab surely knows nobody catches a falling star. And there are many in the BJP today. Except for Anandiben Patel, who was removed as Gujarat CM, was soon rehabilitated in a Raj Bhavan, other sacked CMs are virtually on the political margins today. So where is Vijay Rupani? But for that matter, where are Tripura Singh Rawat and Tirath Singh Rawat? Where is B.S. Yediyurappa? They are all around, but you see them all struggling to kind of, retain their political relevance. So once you are sacked, again you keep struggling. And then again, keep listening to John Anderson, basically asking, would you catch a fallen star before he crashes to the ground? And not the sacked chief ministers. There are a host of union ministers, who were once the shining lights of the Modi cabinet. They're all fading away. So Biplab has to be worried. He's just 50 years old. And he must be thinking, what happened? It was a dream run for him. When he was appointed Tripura BJP chief in January 2016, he was barely 44. He ticked all the boxes. Son of a Jansangh leader, he had been groomed by veteran RSS functionaries such as, Govindacharya and Krishna Gopal. In fact, in 2015, one fine day in 2015, Krishna Gopal asked Biplab whether he could leave Delhi to work for the party in Tripura. And Biplab had to say yes or no then and there. He said yes and left his family in Delhi to work in Tripura. When he took over as the BJP president a year later, the party was virtually non-existent in the state. The BJP had secured just 1.5% votes and 0 seat in the previous assembly election, that was in 2013. However, Biplab led the BJP to dislodge the 25-year-old left-led government in 2018. The left was in power in Tripura for 25 years. He led the party to dislodge the left. He became the CM, and of course Modi and Shah got the credit for grooming and promoting another next generation leader. Today at 50, Biplab Dev must be wondering why he got sacked 9 months before the next election in Tripura. So let's look at the possible reasons for his sacking. He made a lot of controversies with his gaffes. But if that was such a serious issue, most BJP CMs and union ministers today would be out. Similarly, Biplab drew flack for his high-handedness in dealing with political opponents and the media. But which other BJP CM hadn't been accused of doing that? If it was about the BJP's electoral calculations in Tripura, Biplab Dev government was certainly delivering. In Tripura civic polls last November, the BJP swept all 14 urban bodies. It won 217 of the 222 seats that went to the polls. Such smashing victory. So it wasn't that the BJP was losing ground in Tripura and so Biplab Dev had to go. And when he resigned, the explanation coming from central BJP leaders, off the record of course, was that he failed to contain factionalism in the party and the government. In February, two former congressmen who had joined the BJP, who were BJP MLAs, two of these BJP MLAs, Sudeep Roy Burman and Kumar Saha, they had quit the party, actually questioning Biplab's leadership. The fact is, his resignation does not seem to have united the Tripura BJP. Only last Friday, you heard Tripura Law Minister Ratan Lal Nath. He elevated the former CM to a whole new level. And he said at an event, and I'm quoting an Indian Express report, quote unquote, there is a reason why people are born where they are born. For example, and he gave the example of Subhash Chandra Bose, Rabindranath Tagore, Mahatma Gandhi, Einstein. Not everyone is born everywhere. So it's good for Tripura that Biplab Kumar Dev was born here. So the Tripura's law minister is saying all that at an event, He called the former CM the people's leader who gave the state a new direction, a new dream. So much of praise for Biplab Dev. New Tripura CM Manik Saha, although he is a Biplab nominee, he must envy his predecessor's influence over his cabinet colleagues. How often do you hear ministers praising their former boss? That's another way of sending a message to the current boss actually. Ratan Lal Nath's message may not be lost on Modi or Amit Shah either. Then again, you may remember how in MLA that Ram Prasad Paul, he was shouting at this BJP meet where the next CM was to be decided. He even smashed a chair to the ground. It was not the first time he was kind of protesting against Saha. So on that particular occasion, he was protesting against Saha's, appointment or Saha's selection as the next CM. But before that also, only last February, he was one of the 15 BJP leaders who had written to Saha. Saha was the Tripura BJP chief then. So Paul and other BJP leaders, they had written to Saha demanding his resignation for what they call ruining the BJP in his 26 months long tenure as the BJP president. So despite all this background, Saha had to retain Ram Prasad Paul, the MLA, in his cabinet. So the CM has to start his innings with a big compromise, inducting a vocal detractor in his cabinet. Manik Saha, who had quit the Congress to join the BJP in 2016, has his task cut out now. Obviously, you have all your detractors in your cabinet, you have your cabinet ministers who are, praising Biplab Dev. Another way of sending a message to the current chief minister. So what has the BJP achieved there? But anyway, here we are talking about what went wrong and looking at the possible reasons, plausible reasons, I would say, that could actually justify Biplab Dev's sacking. I'm not a Biplab Dev fan, and I don't think that he was such a great administrator that he cannot be replaced. But given that you have about half a dozen chief ministers who have been sacked, BJP chief ministers, I'm just trying to use this Biplab episode to understand why this happens. In Tripura, the BJP has replaced a 50-year-old CM or leader with Saha, who is 69 years old. What's the logic? In fact, Saha has never contested any direct election in his life. Not at the panchayat level, not at the assembly level, not at the Lok Sabha level. He's a Rajya Sabha member. So if the BJP High Command had elections in mind, Manik Shah's choice as the CM is a big surprise. The new CM had another problem. The next assembly election is 9 months away, but he has to get elected as an MLA within the next 6 months. This will be his first direct election. But tell you what, the BJP High Command may not be worried about it. You saw what happened in Uttarakhand? In March 2020, the High Command got Tripura Singh Rawat's resignation and replaced him with Tirath Singh Rawat. Tirath Singh Rawat, like Saha, was also an MP, though Tirath Singh was a Lok Sabha MP, Lok Sabha member, and Saha is a Rajya Sabha member. But then again, Tirath Singh Rawat also had to actually win a bypoll to come to the assembly within 6 months. And the BJP High Command was actually weighing its options. But soon the High Command was very unsure whether he would be able to win or not. If Tirath Singh Rawat had lost the assembly bypoll, just months before the assembly election, it would have been a big blow to the BJP. So what happens? Within 4 months, you first replace Tripura Singh Rawat with Tirath Singh Rawat, and then you replace Tirath Singh Rawat with Pushkar Singh Dhami as Uttarakhand CM. So change of 2 chief ministers within 4 months, between March and July 2020. Everyone, including me, thought it was a political blunder. In the end, what happened? Change of 2 CMs did not really matter to Uttarakhand voters, did it? Anyway, talking about Tripura BJP actually, if factionalism was an issue that went against Biplab, what about other BJP CMs? Ask Madhya Pradesh Chief Minister Shivraj Singh Chauhan. I'm asking what leaders like Kailash Vijayvargiya and Home Minister Narottam Mishra, who are very close to the BJP High Command, what are they doing to the CM? Ask him. I'm sure Chauhan may not want to talk about it. Check with the Haryana CM Manohar Lal Khattar, what he thinks about his Home Minister Anil Vij. The two have been at loggerheads since Khattar's first term, actually, previous term in office. In his second term, Khattar had to give his home portfolio to Vij, under pressure from the High Command, of course, but he took away CID from that home portfolio. So Anil Vij remains the Home Minister, but CID is with the Chief Minister. That meant that, the entire intelligence wing of the police went to Khattar, not to the Home Minister. Vij, in fact, went public with his frustration and objection. But Khattar had his way. The two have never gotten along together. They are still at loggerheads. I'm talking in the context of factionalism. You may also remember, how dozens of BJP MLAs had held a dharna in the UP Assembly in solidarity with one of their own, Nandkishore Gujjar, who had alleged harassment by the Ghaziabad administration. It was such a big embarrassment for UP CM Yogi Adityanath. Imagine BJP MLAs holding a dharna against their own government in the Assembly and the opposition MLAs joining them. Then during the pandemic, a number of BJP MLAs and MPs publicly expressed discontent with the way CM Yogi Adityanath was handling the pandemic. In Yogi's case though, the High Command could do little, and Yogi Adityanath is today the most powerful CM in the country, one of the most popular leaders in the country. Imagine if the High Command took action against Yogi then, due to complaints of MLAs and MPs, and if the High Command were to decide the UP CM's fate then, based on these complaints, what would be the scenario today? I'm explaining all this because I'm just trying to understand what Biplab did, what had not happened in other states ruled by the BJP. There is another allegation against Biplab that he could not get along with ally IPFT, the Indigenous People's Front of Tripura. But then in 2020, you had another case in Manipur, where Biren Singh government was facing revolt by NPP ministers. In fact, NPP ministers resigned from his cabinet. And given the numbers in the assembly, in fact, it looked like that, Biren Singh government was about to fall. But then somehow, again, you have Himanta Biswa Sarma who intervened, took these ministers to Delhi. But nothing happened. Took these ministers to Delhi. They were brought back and things were sorted out. But I'm talking about this level of revolt against the Chief Minister. Biren Singh, again, he has got a second term. Let them talk about Jharkhand. Wasn't the High Command aware of the anti-incumbency and dissension in the BJP against then Chief Minister Raghubar Das. Everybody knows, but no action was taken. What happened finally? Raghubar Das was installed as the Chief Minister by Modi and Shah after the 2014 Assembly election. He was defeated by his ex-cabinet colleague, Saryu Roy, in 2019. The moral of the story is, don't look for rhyme and reason when it comes to the installation or removal of chief ministers by the BJP High Command. Biplab Dev, for all his follies, can ask, if I had to be sacked for this or that reason, what about my counterpart here or there? But if he looks for the High Command's criteria for the removal of, for his removal or for the removal of any of these CMs, well, there are none. I've discussed many. There is no uniformity. There are no uniform criteria as such. PM Modi and Amit Shah are always hailed for, taking bold decisions, removing Anandiben Patel and Yodharappa due to their advanced age, the two Rawats in Uttarakhand due to their non-performance, and Vijay Rupani to give the Gujarat government a fresh look and shed anti-incumbency. They are always hailed. What a bold move they are making. At least that's what the BJP High Command would have us believe, that these are the reasons. Every time somebody is sacked, we are given a reason. Sometimes it's age, sometimes it's non-performance, sometimes it's, giving a fresh look to the government, sometimes it's factionalism, as in the case of Biplab Dev. Nobody can question its political wisdom, because these so-called bold decisions work for the BJP in elections. It worked in Gujarat in 2017. The BJP removed Anandiben Patel as CM and replaced her with Vijay Rupani. It worked. In Uttarakhand, it worked after removal of two chief ministers. So nobody can question, as you say, proof of the pudding is in the eating, right? So as long as the BJP is winning elections, every decision of the High Command is justified, no matter what the sacked CMs may think about it. But there is a catch here. As the BJP CMs have started feeling insecure, not knowing how long they may survive in chair, when they may be asked to go, you see all of them running to Delhi today. Trying to be in the High Command's good book. So Karnataka CM Basuraj Bommai, he has paid 8 visits to Delhi in the last 10 months since he became the Chief Minister last year. In the last 2 months after he became, took oath as Goa Chief Minister for the second time, in the last 2 months, Pramod Sawant has made 3 visits to Delhi. Check out the Delhi visits of other BJP CMs. You will see a similar trend. As many as 8 BJP Chief Ministers were in attendance at a media conclave in Delhi on Sunday. And that conclave was organized by, of course, RSS-affiliated magazines, Organizer and Panchjan. But 8 Chief Ministers were here to attend that, because you have to be in Delhi. One cannot blame the Chief Ministers, sir. They can deliver to their people back home only if they learn the art of survival. And the Delhi Darbar is a key to that. But if their entire focus is on survival, what happens to governance in those states? That's a question for the BJP High Command to answer. That's all from me in this episode of Politically Correct. Thanks for watching.